Hello, my name is Arthur. And since college doesn't start for a couple of days still, I'm continuing to make these unnecessary videos before I've shaved, combed my hair, or brushed my teeth every other day. Today is the first in a set of instructional or informative videos. Today's feature topic will be dice. Yes, dice. The magical polyhedrons of destiny. Since the dawn of time, every major decision in the history of mankind has been determined by dice. It's true. It's a fact. I didn't make that up. You can look it up. Of course, if you look it up, it won't say that, but that's because of the whole conspiracy of free will. But trust me, it was all done by rolling these magnificent, multifaceted marvels. What are dice? Actually, we all pretty much know what dice are. They're things that you roll, and they randomly determine a number. But there's more to dice than most people realize. Most people, they think, what's a dice? Here's a dice. Oh, there's two dice. Let me get to the very beginning of that. This is what is commonly referred to as a dice, or a Monopoly dice, or a craps dice. First of all, that's simply incorrect, because you cannot have a dice. The word dice is plural. These are dice. These are two dice. This is a die. And it's spelled exactly like when someone is going to cease and desist. D-I-E. A die, multiple dice. That's simple. Now I'm going to go ahead and teach the rest of you really quick what the different kinds of dice are, the most frequently used kinds of dice. First of all, the format for naming dice is very simple. The letter D, and then the number of sides on the die. So, let's go back to our old faithful. This is a D6. It rolls 1 through 6. It has 6 sides. What's most important is the possible roll on the dice, because there are certain dice, like this little fella here. He is a D6. He rolls 1 through 6, but if you look closely, he has more than 6 sides on him. However, none of these small sides on the end can possibly stand on. So, in order from smallest to largest, D4s. They roll 1 through 4. Most of your D4s are going to look like this little fella here. He looks kind of like a pyramid. He's got 4 sides. He can roll 1 through 4. You know what number you rolled because that's the one that is legible, usually on the bottom, but it'll always be the one pointing the right direction. This is a crystal D4. It basically does the same thing. It's just a different shape. It rolls 1 through 4. It's called a D4. These are the most popular dice in the world, D6s. Here's the crystal D6. We all know what to do. You roll them, a number comes up, bada boom. Next in line are D, can anyone guess? That's right, D8s. These are D8s. Most basic kind of D8 looks like this. I shouldn't have my hands in front of the camera so much. This is a D8. It's your typical guy. He's shaped kind of like a diamond or a gem. Remember back in the 8-bit era when you were always gathering gems in video games? He looks like that. Whatever side is facing you when you roll it, the one that's standing up and looking at you, that's the number you get. Here is a crystal D8, very much the same thing. He rolls a 1 through 8, that's a 6, by the way, that's a 6. Whatever side is facing up when you roll them, that's the number you get. The good thing about D8s and D4s is they can be used as caltrops when being chased by ninja. So you can just, if you're like, oh no, there's ninja chasing me. Oh, good thing I've got all those D8s and D4s in my pocket. And then you go, ha-ha, take that, ninja, and you run away. Let's see, we went 4, 6, 8. What could possibly be next? Oh, right, 10s. D10s are probably the third most frequently used kind of die. They look like these guys. You couldn't see that at all. They look like these fellas right here. D10s sort of look like a ballerina, They have this weird bevelly middle part, and they're kind of pointy on the tips and rounded. Just like the other dice, whatever number is on top when you roll is the number that you get. This is a crystal D10, same thing. It rolls 1 through 10. Whatever number is on top is the number you get. That gives me an excuse to show you something important. On a D10, both 6 and 9 can appear. To distinguish, man, that's hard to see, they will have a little dot on the bottom or a line underneath it. So if you roll a die and you can't tell if you got a 6 or a 9, look for the dot or the line. Here, this one's easier to see. That 6 has a dot there saying this is a 6 because the dot goes on the bottom. The other interesting thing about D10s is they're frequently used to determine percentages. Because with a D10, you can say, well, if I roll 2 of them, I can say one is the 10 digit, the other is the 1 digit. So they started making percentile dice. Percentile dice have 2 digits in them. If you have 2 D10s and one of them is specifically a percentile dice, you can use it like a regular D10, or you can roll them together and you say, okay, I'm going to roll these dice, rolla, rolla, rolla. Oh, look, I just got a 79%, because the one that says 70 and the one that says 9. I know, it's kind of silly, isn't it? It's amazing how easy that is. Let's see, 4, 6, 8, 10. What could possibly come after that? The D12. The unfortunate, misbegotten, forgotten son of dice. I love D12s. I just think they're so cool because they're so very different from the other dice. They're nearly spherical, but they still have very distinct flat edges on them. Here's a crystal D12, much the same thing. They work like the other dice, but they're the least used of all the dice. That's just because there's no systems that rely exclusively on D12s, and the systems that use multiple dice, D12s don't happen so frequently. D6s are in every game Milton Bradley or Parker Brothers ever frickin' made. D10s, people fell in love with them in the White Wolf era. And the next one, many of you will be somewhat familiar with. That would be the D20. This is the Grand King. Now, he's not the populist like the D6 is. Your average Joe doesn't know what a D20 is. But those in the geek community are very familiar with the D20. Since the great dark days when Gary Gygax was sitting in a room with his friends getting drunk and saying, dude, I love that friggin' Lord of the Rings book, man. That's fucking awesome. People have been rolling these to determine whether or not they do things. It's not the only way, by the way. You can roll all those dice to do this, but this is the one most frequently used. Dungeons & Dragons said, do you want to do something? Do you? Then you better frickin' roll a D20! Here's a crystal D20. It works just like all the other dice do. Crystal dice in particular, you roll them, whatever number is on top, that's the number you get. It works the same way with a regular D20. Remember D20? 20-sided die. All D&D products use a 20-sided die. The open source D20 system uses a 20-sided die. A whole lot of junk uses a 20-sided die. Now, there's a lot of role-playing games that only use D10s, and there's even quite a few that only use D6s. And then because of that, that's why D6s are probably the most famous. These are the second most famous, and probably the most defended, because on average, people don't see dice with more than 20 sides on them. Now, there are higher dice. There are 30-sided die. I think there's a 45-sided die, or no, 50-sided die. I know there's a 100-sided die. Chances are you're never, ever going to see those. It's 4 through 20. That's what really happens. So, next time you're hanging out in the Cool Kids Club, and someone says, hey, dude, could you hand me a D8? You don't have to go, oh, I don't, is that like a food product? You can actually go, yeah, dude, hang on. Here's your D8 for you. I know it's a D8 because it's got 8 sides. It's kind of angular. Looks kind of like a diamond. And he can go, thanks, man. I had to fend off Ninja. Okay, that was my time waster for today. Let's take one last look at our little plate of dice. See if I can do this. Watch out, the horizontal plane's going to change. Ooh, pretty. Dice are fun to roll, they're fun to use to make decisions, but not in the real world unless you're insane like me, in which case, if you have no idea what to do, go right ahead. Dice are also fun because you can collect them. They're pretty. You can do all kinds of things with them. They're almost like a little art form. For people who love to collect things for no reason, if you're going to collect stamps or bottle caps, collect dice. You can at least do something with those. Alright, that's it for this one. I nearly hit 10 minutes, which is about twice what I intended this video to be, so I'm going to go ahead and make my next one afterwards.